when we think about the endings and why they turned out the way that they did, it's kind of important to remember that it wasn't an entire team of writers coming to write the ending. It was Mac Walters and Casey Hudson essentially isolating themselves from the rest of the team and not consulting them. And previous writers have spoken about how upset they were and they didn't think this was a good decision. And it's very reflective in the final product that like no one else consulted or gave feedback or whatever. And number one, that in itself feels anti-Bioware. Like that doesn't feel correct with the usual way that they operate. But unfortunately, we are still feeling the effects of those decisions. What it's been, gosh, I can't do math. It's been like 12 years since Mass Effect 3. And people still cannot coherently explain exactly what happened or what all of it means. Like, and I say that as someone, obviously I've analyzed everything. I know you guys all have too. Like, we all know the intricacies of the ending, and we all still don't 100% understand it or are able to make sense of it. And that is going to be, in my opinion, something that they will have to address in Mass Effect 5. They're going to have to be like, here is more exposition on what actually happened with Shepard's choice. And I know that a lot of people don't want that to be explored, but like I feel like they have to. I feel like they have to be like, you guys have been asking questions for years, which, doubled with the Legendary Edition coming out. And, making all these theory videos about what could happen in the next game is so hard because we still don't know what happened in the last one.
Yeah, I think people need closure. I think that's what people didn't have properly, is closure to be able to move on to accept something else. I think that's why so many people, even though I didn't have a problem with Andromeda, but I think they just moved on and ignored what happened, right, in the endings and everything. So I think they do need that closure. But I don't think the indoctrination theory is going to be addressed. It's definitely not canonical. Why would they let, like Chris Hepler obviously did an interview, I think it was like February 2021, which is just before the Legendary Edition came out. Now they had 12 years to address the indoctrination theory publicly, and they only did it after Mass Effect 4 had been announced and we'd seen trailer footage and the Legendary Edition came out. And I think that's purposeful. I think that's them saying it's a great idea, we love it, but it's a fan theory and it's not canonical and we never planned it and it isn't part of the lore. So I think they do have to address the endings and whether or not they choose a canonical ending with Destroy or anything, which they're doomed if they do, they're doomed if they don't, honestly. Because people want their choices to matter, obviously, into the next Mass Effect. But I think Bioware, personally, even though I quite enjoy the indoctrination theory and discussing it and debating it, I do think they're going to look to put it behind them. And I don't think it is classed as canonical, not by Bioware anyway. They consider it a fan theory.
Something I wanted to touch on that Calla had mentioned was what Mike Gamble wrote in that blog post was all of those questions that fans have, like I think he wrote like, what does a baby Volus sound like? And I believe he also wrote the ending. So he's definitely aware of it. And on Twitter even, I think on one of your tweets, Calla, when you were like, list your craziest theories, Gamble himself replied with like something along the lines of, if Marauder shields lived, then this would happen, right? Yeah. So like, I think that it's a pretty telling sign that the franchise director of Mass Effect, like Mike Gamble, he seems to have a very solid finger on the pulse of where the fan base is, just in terms of everything, our curiosity, what we're concerned about, what we want to see in the next game and stuff like that. So just from like the endings perspective, I do think that it is going to be addressed. And something else I wanted to touch on was it's huge that they hired Mary DeMarle, because it would be like what happened in the endings, just in the endings of Mass Effect 3, just having her there as the senior narrative director will prevent all of those indiscrepancies and contradictions from being in place. Because as the senior narrative director, she's basically there to direct the writers to make sure that every little detail in like different character arcs, the overall plot, the world building, like all of those things align with one another and make sense. So yeah, when Bioware was like, we're hiring Mary DeMarle, it was such a huge relief because we won't have to, like, as a fan base, come up with theories like the indoctrination theory, hopefully, for whatever the end game sequence in the next Mass Effect is, because Mary's there, you know? So yeah, I completely trust Mary DeMarle. I have complete faith that she'll prevent something like this from happening again.
And she was, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was fantastic.
Exactly.
Like the writing in them was so good, and the characterizations, and I really enjoyed that game. So I'm very excited for that.